Welcome to chapter 20 of the book of Job. So far addresses the lawbreakers, impious and lawbreakers, actually, as we'll see in the chapter. I'll read a little in the Greek, and then we'll go into the chapter. Ipolavon they so far, o meneos, legi, ukoutos ipolam vanon, antarin se tavta, ke uki siniate malon e ego. And undertaking, so far the Manean says. Now the last chapter, 19, we went into the testing by God and the devil. God for us to pass, the devil for us to fail, and what it was all about. Now, handling these tests is the main concern for us. Now, if someone is not a believer in God, then does God test the person? Well, I don't think so, because the test is like you belong to a class and you have a professor who is testing you for the things that you are learning in the class. The same thing with God. We are being tested in the class of being Christians to see, make us better, basically. Now, the devil definitely tests the people, and he tests believers and unbelievers. But an unbeliever, or the impious, as we'll see here, is set apart. It has certain things about the impious that is unique to him and not to the believer. But if we are Christians and we are being tested, then we need to prepare for the test. Now, how do you prepare for the test of life? Well, a little child wouldn't be able to. They have to listen to the parents. Same thing with young people and then the adults. I believe the best lesson is in the book of the Bible. Reading the Bible, we'll find out what we need to do to pass the test, and what we will do if we would fail the test. And then we need to acknowledge the situation that we're in as a test. If we just complain to God as Job here, well, that counts, and you can complain to Job, but it makes it better when you realize that you're being tested by God. And there's a purpose for a test, and God wants us to get better and to pass. Now, you can argue, well, all the things that is in that test, being born blind and so forth, is a pretty bad way of testing. Why does God do that? Well, the why, once you get into the why does God do something, you're on dangerous ground, because we don't know why God does it. And as Jesus, I think it was, saying, does the pot that's being made by the craftsman, does it say, well, I want to be a round pot, or I want to be a square pot? Or no, it does what the craftsman, the potter, wants it to be. So then we see that God has allowed us to be in this positions that we are in, but Jesus says to pray that we would not be put into the test, pray that we would succeed in going through the test and being acceptable to God, doing the best that we can. The worst thing that we can do is blame God. We need to acknowledge Him as a teacher for these tests, not blaming Him, because we've been put into this life for a purpose, and it's God's purpose. And if it's God's purpose and we have more difficult than other people, then we have to deal with that and so forth. But the worst thing a person can do is to blame God, and that's pretty much the impious. The unbelievers may not even blame God. They just curse their existence. And we'll see that in this chapter. It begins an undertaking, so for the Minoans. A Minoan, it's not a Minoan. The Minoans are on the island of Crete. But the Minoan was in northern Arabia. And he says to Job, not so far have I undertook to contradict you in these things. I'm not going against you, and I'm not contradicting, and neither do you perceive more than I. We both know the same things that are going on. I will hearken to instruction for making me ashamed. Now, what instruction he's talking about here, I'm not quite sure, but the Spirit from out of the understanding answers to me, so the instruction of the Spirit of God in him. Now, this, remember, is back in the time of the patriarchs, so it's amazing that they understood that there was a God and that there was a Spirit, and they relate to the existence of man. Have you not known these things from the yet of which time man was put upon the earth? All the things of God. For gladness of impious ones is an extraordinary downfall, and a cause of joy of lawbreakers is destruction. So now we see the subjects of the rest of the chapter, the impious and the lawbreaker. They're not believers in God, apparently, I would say. If you could be impious, and I suppose, and believe God, but let's just say that these impious here and the lawbreakers do not know things of God. If his gifts should ascend into heaven, and his sacrifice should touch the clouds, for whenever he should seem already firmly fixed, then he shall perish unto the end. So the things may be going right for the impious lawbreaker. He may think he's okay by going to church, here the sacrificing in the to God or in the temple. Later with the Jews or us Christians going to church, that we're going to be okay. But no, he shall perish at the end if he's lying to himself and to God. Where is he? And the ones knowing him shall say, where is he? He'll be gone all of a sudden. As if a dream spreading forth, in no way shall he be found. Poof, the lawbreaker is gone, and there's no remembrance of him. So he flies as if a nightly manifestation, like a dream. The eye overlooked and proceeds not, and his place no longer pays attention to him. He's on his own, basically, and does what he wants to do in spite of the rules of life, the rules of the government, the rules of society, or the rules of God. May his inferiors destroy his sons, and this is what he is saying that should happen to him, that he doesn't have children that will be like him, basically. And may his hands light the fire of griefs, and the ungodly, again, the impious, griefs will come to them, either in this life or the next. And again, as I said so many times, the devil makes it appear that people that are impious and ungodly succeed, but I don't believe that the scale shows that there is more of those that succeed than the ones that don't. I believe the ones that don't are greatly outnumber the ones that are impious and ungodly, seem to get through life without any repercussions for their bad behavior. His bones were filled with the vigor of his youth, and it shall go to bed with him upon the embankment. And the embankment is the grave, and you can see the dagger, and down here it's the grave, because an embankment was after you dig the hole, you put the body in it, you fill it back up with dirt, the dirt's up above. the grave. Now, there are other ways of burying people, but this is what I believe it's talking about. Though evil should be sweet in his mouth, he shall hide it under his tongue. People don't know that he is impious and evil. He shall not spare it and will not abandon it, and he brings it in the midst of his throat, this behavior, and no way shall he be able to help himself. The bile of an asp, the snake, is in his belly, and the nasty things that come out of the impious, the ungodly. Riches unjustly brought together shall be vomited forth. They lose everything that they have, and unjustly. And from out of his house an angel shall drag him away, maybe referring to death. And may he nurse the rage of dragons. May a lot of bad things happen to him. People attacking him is what the writer here would like to see. And may the tongue of a serpent do away with him, being bitten by a poisonous snake, dying. Nothing good should happen to him as far as, it was a Baldad, I believe. Let me get down here and see it was Baldad. No, it wasn't Baldad. We're talking about Sophar. May he not behold the milking of grazing animals, and I put that in green. You can add it to your English derivatives book. I believe the word nomad comes from that. Nor hit the pastures of honey and butter, another word you can add, and vutiru, butter. It's almost a transliteration. So may these things not come his way. May he not see success in farming. For he tired for attaining riches in emptiness and vanity. People that they live their life just to get money, and it's all gone. At the end of their life, they're not taking it with them. They have all these riches. I look at videos on YouTube of these giant mansions that are empty, that people spent all their lives acquiring all this wealth from successful business ventures and built these giant mansions, especially like in Newport, Rhode Island, but yet now they're all empty. They can't afford to fix them up, and they're just falling apart in 100 years later. From out of which he shall not taste. It is as if tough, unchewable, and impotable. Whatever he has, you can't eating it and using it as a figure of speech. It's not doing him any good. Tough, unchewable, and potable, not drinkable. For he crushed the houses of many of the disabled, and a habitation he seized by force and established it not. So the ungodly and the impious taking advantage of people, grifters, people that go around doing nothing but trying to cheat people out of their money, widows, old people, and so forth. And horrible. His safety is not in the possessions. By his desire, he will not escape. So he's not safe, especially eternally. His possessions are not going to get him into heaven, or not going to get him out of Hades. Won't do him any good. And his desire, whatever he wants, once he's there, if he's in Hades, the ungodly, where the ungodly and impious go, he may want to get out, but he can't. We'll find out why here in a little bit, in the next couple of verses. There is not a leftover to the foods of his. It doesn't have plenty, that is. On account of this, the good things of his shall not bloom. He's not going to have a lot of things on the whole. and whenever it should seem urgent to accomplish something, he shall be afflicted. If he needs to fix something, he won't be able to because he'll be in jail or drunk, lost his money, all sorts of bad things. And all distress shall come upon him. If by any means he, the ungodly and pious one, might fill his belly, to send as a successor upon him the rage of anger, and may griefs wash over him. And in no way shall he be delivered from out of the hand of iron, jail or Hades, and may the bow of brass pierce him and die, basically. And may the arrow go completely through his body, and may the stars walk upon his habitation, more or less the night darkness be upon him. May fears be upon him, and may all darkness wait for him. An inextinguishable fire shall devour him. An inextinguishable fire, which would be in Hades. We see in Matthew 3:12, Jesus says, "But the straw he shall incinerate by inextinguishable fire," taking the straw away from the wheat grain, and the straw will be burned in inextinguishable fire. He's talking about the believers and the unbelievers here being separated. And then he continues and says, then he will say also to the ones on his left, that is the ones that separated the sheep and the goats, "Go from me, O ones being cursed, into the eternal fire, having been prepared for the devil and his angels." So an eternal fire, inextinguishable, basically would be the same thing. People have trouble with the word eternal for fire because a person that's possibly may be there doesn't want that to happen. So the best thing that they can do, rather than change their life, is to make believe that this word doesn't mean eternal. That's eon, as the Greek word would be above it if you had the Greek here. So they would say, well, aeonio is only one time. So you're only going to be in Hades for a certain period of time. But then again, when you see the inextinguishable fire, puts it on a different plane. It's not going out. And then in Mark 9:43, Jesus says, "It is good to you to enter crippled into life, rather than having two." He's telling them to cut off your hand if it's causing you to sin. It's good for you to enter crippled into life rather than having two hands to go forth into Gehenna, whereas that into inextinguishable fire. So this is what the ungodly are going to experience. And then continues in 26, "And may a stranger inflict evil on his house." Somebody that he's not thinking about could end up harming the impious one. "And may the heaven uncover his lawless deeds." God uncovers what he's doing. People see it. "And the earth rise up against him." Boy, a lot of things that this man has against the impious and showing us are all true. "May destruction draw his house." And we see down there with that, it says, "Wash it out," 28. "Wash out the house unto the end. And then may the day of anger come upon him," and the day of anger would be, of course, the judgment. "This is the portion of an impious man." Not us, from the Lord. So the Lord is capable of doing all these things. and the possession of his substance given to him by the overseer, which would be God is the overseer. Jesus is going to be a judge when he returns, and the people will be judged for the things that they have done. Chapter 21, now we go back to Job and his reflections on what's saying so forth, and how the wicked prosper. Like I was saying, it seems like that happens, and we'll see what Job has to say about that in our next video seminar. I hope you join us. Till then, God bless.